Welcome to Rewiring Health. This podcast is for those of you who have an eating disorder, chronic pain, or both. In this channel, we'll dive deep into inspirational stories of those who have healed from both and also get into the mind-body connection and how we can heal the mind through the body and also heal the body through the mind. Come and join me on this journey. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Eddy Smits. Eddy Smits is a TEDx speaker, an author, and a licensed NLP practitioner. He is a certified management drives trainer, a certified cognitive behavioral life coach, and a certified master mindset life coach. He also has a bachelor's in pedagogy. He was a professional clown for 22 years. As a hospital clown, he visited more than 10,000 sick and palliative children. To do this work, he had to display extraordinary leadership. He has also become an expert in authentic communication. Since 2012, he has been active in the field of personal development, where he applies an innovative approach to coaching, using the techniques of a hospital clown combined with positive intelligence to increase mental fitness and personal leadership. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of Rewiring Health. I'm very excited to be joined by Eddy Smits. So thank you very much for being on the podcast today.
My pleasure.
Yeah. So I always love to hear how people got to where they are today. So would you just mind sharing your story of where did you begin and what brought you to serving the people you do and the mission that you are on today?
Sure. So I was born. No, just kidding. Yeah, but I was born.
A long podcast.
Yeah. I'll start with my actually I started my first job or what I wanted to do. So I wanted to be a teacher, and I also studied to be a teacher. But I soon found out that, yeah, there were certain things I couldn't be creative. The structure of teaching of schools weren't my thing, and I soon didn't want to do that anymore. And so yeah, then I waited tables for a while. And at that point, I got intrigued by clowns, actually. And I started to watch movies and read books. That was pre-internet. That was early 90s.
Mhm.
And I got so intrigued and fascinated by it that I wanted to do it. I said, I want to do that. I want to be a clown, you know. And when I told my parents that, they were a little bit surprised. There was like 10 seconds of silence when I announced that. Because, you know, I had a, you know, like teaching, they were already a little bit disappointed that I didn't teach anymore because it was a good job, etc. I paid well. So now I was waiting tables, which was like no future, right? But I really wanted to do that. And I didn't know anything about it. So I had to learn everything from scratch. And then at some point, I was into like, I think 6 or 7 years into clowning. They approached me to be a hospital clown. And it didn't exist then in Belgium. So you guys had that in the States. There was like a movement, but in Belgium, there was nothing. And some guys wanted to start that up. They had an insurance company, and they had some money, and they said, hey, we want to do this in Belgium because this looks like really something that is good, right? And then I got selected, me and my colleague. There were two people. We started this, and again, yeah, we didn't know nothing, and we soon find out that this was like a little bit more of a challenge than what we were used to. We were used to coming to places and yay, the clown is there, right? Let's start a party. Mm-hmm. But now we went into a situation where they were scared of us, where we had to convince people, even parents, doctors, nurses, to even get into the room before we even could do something. And then when we did something, it you know, we didn't connect really. And so we had to learn that the world was upside down. That means the child had to lead us what they wanted and where they want to go. So instead of like doing tricks and balloons and what stuff what clowns do, we had to learn to improvise, and we had to be, our clowning had to be top, you know, because we had to stay in this character and purely improvise everything. And that was a really challenge in the beginning. And then the last years, I did that for 10 years. And the last years, I did also a lot of palliative children. And then the bar was raised again, because then you are dealing with children that are literally have maybe a few days, weeks, months to live. So that raised the bar again And during that work, I started to get interested in how people work and how people react. And because you get in a lot of situations with parents, with teachers, with doctors, with nurses, people, right? So children also, of course. And that triggered me to write a book about, if we can make a dying child laugh and make the parents laugh and have like parents telling us, okay, this was the last time we saw a child laugh, it was so good for us. If we could realize that parents until this day still send me Christmas cards, then there had to be something from this what we could use in our real lives. And that was what my first book was about. How can we use this attitude, this techniques, these principles, however you call it, how can I use this in my real life, in my business? And that was what the book was about. And that was also, let's say, that was 2012. That was a little bit my start of going into personal development and looking the things in another way, actually. So yeah, that in short is how I got to this. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just such a beautiful story, especially the human connection. I had mentioned to you, I watched your TED talk and it was just like, I almost brought me to tears, just like you talking about the experiences. And I remember you talking about this little girl that you had worked with. And it's like, just that, what a gift that you gave to those families and to those children. And I think it's just such a beautiful thing that, even in some of the darkest moments, you can still find light. And I think that's such a beautiful message.
It is, and I realized it only afterwards. When you're in it, you're caught in everything, and you're doing stuff, and you're going, and you're not really realizing it. I started to realize it when I got my first Christmas cards. Then it started to sink in. Like, whoa, this is profound. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, and just like what that must have made and given the gift to those parents that, to have that moment with their child, even in such a really tough moment in their lives.
Absolutely.
It's so profound. With your work with children, what have you learned? Because I mean, I think there's so much to learn from children. And like I have 2 kids myself and I learn something from them all the time. And what have you found that these children can teach us, in life?
There's so much we could use like 3 podcasts only talking about that. But I really think, and I not only think, I know that the biggest gift they can teach us is to be honest, is to be just perfectly honest. I remember like when we went to hospitals, at some point we lost the schmink, how you call it, the how you call it in English, the paint on our face, how you call that? Yeah, so we lost that. We lost also even the clown clothes. So we were very subtle, just a little red nose, very subtle, because they were afraid sometimes of clowns, because it was too much. But then on the other hand, when we came in, they say, "Oh, you're not a real clown,"
because they're looking for it.
Yeah. But that honesty, and that's something we as adults we lose during our life, or from going to child and beyond. And I feel like even now in my work, the work that I do, I can help the people best by just being honest to them. And it's not the easiest thing to do, I can tell you. I mean, nobody wants to hear the truth, which is a pity, because when you tell the truth, then you can work on things. And that's what I love on children. They just spit out the truth, and then, okay, we are at this level. Now we can start to work.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is really the greatest thing that we can relearn from kids, because we all had it and we lost it. And to find that again and to see that again in children. And I see also a lot of parents or grown-ups get mad or get angry. Children are just honest. And so that's how they de-learn, right? And they learn to twist their words, and so there it begins. But being honest to yourself to begin with, and then to others. So
I love that. I think it's so true. And it's like, you can see it. It's like, I mean, I see my kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, you just said that, it's like, but it's so true. And it's like, we have all these social and cultural norms that kind of cloud what is our
Yeah.
authentic self, and we're
Yeah.
supposed to be a certain person and act a certain way and say a certain thing. And it's like we
Yeah.
have all these like barriers before we can actually
Yeah.
be what we're actually authentically feeling. And it,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, I think that's such a good point to make, because it is beautiful how honest kids are, even though it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you just said that. But it's like, you know exactly where they're at, and it's there's no
Yeah,
guessing
that's
game.
it. You know, exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, if you see somebody and he has to lose 30 pounds, and you say, yeah, you're a little bit overweight. No, he says, just you're fat, man. You're fat. And maybe then something triggers in him that he says, oh yeah, that's true. I'm fat. I have to lose weight because my health and but as long as you sugarcoat it, nothing is going to happen. Huh? That's what we do all the time, actually.
Yeah. And sometimes when we, really with the brain, the way it works, it was when you bring awareness to those things that
Yeah.
we deeply need to address, or don't, or kind of cloud, so we don't have to address it or we escape from it. It's like once you bring awareness to it, it stops growing. So you have to bring
Then you can,
awareness to
yeah,
it.
then you can change and you can grow. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But before that, you need to know where point A is before you can go to point B. And as
Mhm.
long as you don't know where you are, you know,
Yeah.
if you want to direct somebody who wants to come to your place and you ask him on the phone, hey, where are you? And he says, yeah, I'm around, I don't know. Then you can't direct him.
Mhm.
But if you say, yeah, I'm at the church
Yeah.
now, and say, oh, okay, now I know where you are. Now I can direct you to my
Mhm.
place. It's as simple as that, actually.
So true. It's just bringing clarity to our lives, which I
Bringing
love
clarity.
that. As far as barriers, because I know, honesty, 100%, I agree with that. Honesty is a huge barrier. But as far as like evolving our mindset, what are some other barriers you see with people that is
Yeah.
really holding them back from living their
Yeah.
dream life?
Limiting beliefs is another big one.
Mhm.
And that's also one that actually it's not our fault.
Mhm.
You know, our parents, our teachers, our friends, our family. And it's here again, it starts when we are just little and we get all these limiting beliefs. Like you gotta work hard if you work some money, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And it's based on nothing, actually. It's just based on what they from hearsay. And it's really based on nothing. I had a conversation last with somebody, and there was the thing. Yeah, you have to keep it simple when it's simple. And then somebody says, yeah, but what did he say exactly? His words were, yeah, but when it's simple, it doesn't work. He said something like that. And then I asked him, okay, what doesn't work when it's simple? And he was like, he couldn't say anything.
Mhm.
But it was so ingrained in his head. No, that's too simple. That's not possible that works because that's too simple.
Mhm.
But especially as a clown, you have to reduce it to as simple as possible. That's your strength also as a clown. And in clowning, the more simple you can do the things, the sooner you get the laugh, the sooner you get the connection, etc. So here, that's the same. And these beliefs around money, around work, around relationships, around everything actually. But again, mostly it's not our fault. It's our parents, our teachers, and it's also not their fault. It's just
Mhm.
something we get into our brain, but it's really hard to get it out.
Yeah.
But it stops us again to grow. If we have certain pictures, images of money, for example, that can stop us to have success, or that can stop us to whatever. And but it's all limiting beliefs, and the word says it itself. It are beliefs that limit us in growing, in reaching something, and so on. So that's the thing I encounter a lot with people, and they don't even know where they get it. They say it, and then you ask, you go some deeper into it, say, okay, where does it come from, or what do you mean exactly? And they can't give you an answer, but still they're so convinced that it's true,
Yeah.
which is strange. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's one of the things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it dictates 95% of our life, that subconscious
Yeah.
thoughts that we have, and we don't even
Yeah.
realize it. I mean, I've caught it in
Yeah.
myself. The more I learn, I'm like, oh my gosh, that wasn't true. And for
Yeah.
30 some years, I'm like, I believed
Yeah.
this. And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, now where did that come from? And am I
Yeah.
instilling that in my children? So now it's like, you have to take a step back to
And
realize,
see, the word truth fell again. Huh? You said, oh my
yeah,
God, it's not true. The
honest,
word truth fell again.
yes.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
So true. Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. And it's like, the more I've learned, it's like we develop this from like ages 0 to 7, because our brain waves are set to believe everything we're told in that
Of course.
time. And
course.
yeah, it's so
Yeah.
important to take a step back and question, is that true?
Yeah.
Does this serve me if I believe
Yeah.
this? And it's so important. So for someone who's saying, oh my gosh, I never even realized that I was just living in autopilot, like what would you suggest that somebody does to take those subconscious beliefs and then start altering them in a way that serves them to move their life forward?
Well, you gotta question them. You gotta expose them. That's the first thing you do, and you hear it in how people talk and how what the ideas are, and
Mhm.
you just gotta. And with some people, you gotta do it very gently, layer per layer, and some people you just need to say it blunt out, bang. You gotta just throw it at them. It depends, of course, with whom you are working, but that's the only way. They have to. That's how it starts, and they
Mhm.
have to go again to point A. You have to lead them to point A before you can lead them to point B. And that's point A, to realize that certain beliefs that they have are just not true, and that they don't serve them. And once they get it, once they get that, and they start working in another way that their beliefs are serving them, they feel very soon that that's the way to go. Because then intuition comes in, creativity comes in, all these great things then come into life, which beforehand are not in the picture, but then they come. They automatically, it automatically comes when you start moving from, when you start shifting these beliefs. All these things, these nice things come, wisdom comes, creativity comes, intuition comes, all these good things that you need,
Mhm.
they come. And that's what we want, of course.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that really is the whole energy of life, I believe, is that you create, you become creative. And it's like when you are surrounded by stress all the
Yeah.
time and you
Yeah.
have all these limiting beliefs, it's like that's all clouded. And now you feel stagnant in life. And if we're not growing, that's,
Yeah. And again, children are very creative on
Mhm.
their own. You don't need
Yes.
to learn them how to be creative, but adults have to go do a workshop how to be creative.
hmm
How
100%.
how
Yeah.
how stupid is that? You
Yeah.
had it, and you just gave it away.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. I mean, my son wants me to be mommy T-Rex all the time. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And for him, it's like, there's a Spinosaurus behind us, but
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, you have to like relearn how to like have fun and be creative
Yeah.
again, because it is like, I remember being a child and that was just natural. And it's like, you
Yeah.
devolve out of that. And it's like, we're
Yeah.
not meant to let that go. It's supposed to be part of us, no matter
Absolutely.
what age we are.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. And so for somebody who says, like, well, it sounds great, but I'm going through this really tough situation, or I have a really, really hard place I'm in life right now, what would you say to that person who said, like, that's all sounds great, but you don't understand my situation. I'm going through
Yeah.
really tough times.
I always use the same analogy, and I ask
Mhm,
them the question, would you, if you put your hand on a hot stove,
mhm,
would you hold the hand on your hot stove?
mhm,
And they all say no. And then I say, why are you doing this with your life now?
mhm,
And I let them think. And then you can start a conversation. Because, everybody has his problems, his challenges, his everything. But if you keep your hand on the hot stove, it's only going to get worse. you know and that's what a lot of people do. They just keep their hand on the hot stove. They feel sorry for themselves. They are blaming everyone except themselves, or themselves even. So they are moving into all these things that don't serve them.
mhm,
And here it is again the same. It is, or we do it in a very slow, smooth way, and we peel the onion, or we just blunt out, tell them, okay, I understand that you're suffering, but what you're doing now is not helping you to lead another life, or to suffer less, or even suffer not anymore. And that goes as well for mindset, as chronic pain, as everything. I mean, and that's again, people can't help it, because scientifically you can explain it. They all think this. They keep thinking with their reptile brain, and that's your reptile brain is really good. You need it, because when you go to the hot stove, your reptile brain says, ooh.
mhm,
So you need the reptile brain, right? But if you stay in that reptile brain, I mean, when you see a snake, your reptile brain says run, right? And you start running. But at some point you have to stop running, right? You can't run forever. And that's what these people are doing. They keep on running. They don't even look back to see if the snake is still there. They just keep running. And at some point, they don't even know why they are running anymore.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's the analogy, but that's actually what people do.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, as much as it doesn't serve you, it's a known outcome. Like if you've done it over and over and over again,
Yeah.
it's, quote, comfortable because you know how
Yeah.
the outcome's going to be. It almost
Yeah.
becomes more uncomfortable to discover something different that you don't know how it's going to work out than to just stay in this route. And that becomes almost like that natural resistance people have to change, even if they cognitively know it's good for them.
Yeah. It's a muscle. It's a muscle, and you need to train it. It doesn't go. It doesn't go from its. You know, if let's say you're 40 years old, you've been doing it for 40 years. You can't expect that in 3 days that you can change it.
Yeah.
But you can change it. I changed it with people in 6 weeks. So it is possible to change
Yeah.
it. But of course, you need a little discipline. You need to do some exercise every day. They say every day. I mean, and how long? Yeah, for 15 minutes. Say, 15 minutes. If you don't want to invest 15 minutes for 6 weeks for the rest of your life, I don't think you're really serious then. See, so then all these other things keep on popping up. No, I don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. So and that's the work I do for the big part, is just showing them how stupidly they keep their hand on the hot plates. That's actually the basics of my work.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I mean, you're literally wiring yourself to keep the same result over and over and over again. And it's, really, it does start with that consistency. I'm a huge believer in consistency. Like you don't have to be perfect, but it has to be consistent. That's the only way.
Nobody's perfect. No.
Yep. Exactly. For someone, I mean, I know resilience is huge. You have to become a very resilient person. How do you recommend someone becomes more resilient so that the outside world doesn't crowd them in their internal world?
You know, the most important thing for me is that willpower doesn't cut it. Yeah, a lot of people start to do things out of willpower, and there are some who succeed, right? There are some, don't get me wrong, there are some, but then I think at what cost? But then it's every day a drag, every day they are pulling themselves together. It's so tiring. I admire these people, really, I admire them, but in my mind it goes, it's not necessary, because you have to find a way, a creative way, or you have to navigate in another way, or there is another way to solve this. Only we are so used to do this way that we don't explore the other things anymore. So here again, that's what we need to do. We need to just explore and navigate, use our creativity out of this reptile brain, because then this will put us to the no and the don't do this again. And once we are there, then we can start to navigate, and then resilience becomes something less tiring, less energy taken. It gives you energy instead of it takes you energy. So that's a little bit what I really want to emphasize, is that willpower. I have nothing against willpower. I admire these people because they do. I mean, they are stupid, but when you don't know better, then you can't call them stupid when people don't know better. They just don't know better. But when you go over them and you really look at it and say, okay, can we do this another way? If you have to do something every day, and every day you have to drag yourself, can you find a way that it's fun again? Right? Stupid examples. I used to ride bike just for my condition and my health, right? I mean, the days when I was in Belgium, but it was boring, right? It was boring. And after a few weeks, I wouldn't go anymore. It was boring. It was always the same route. And then I was talking to a friend. He says, hey, but I want to come with you. Let's do it together. And that was it. It was as simple as that. The moment we were two, it was no problem. We were talking. We were looking for nice routes. And we didn't drag us anymore to this bike every day or every week or whatever. And this is just a simple example, but this counts for everything. It may look as complicated as you think, but there is always a simple solution. There's always one, but you have to look for it. If you don't look for it, you won't find it.
So true. If it feels like a second job, you're going to have a natural resistance to it. Like nobody wants a second job. Nobody wants to feel like they have an energy drain. And it's like, stacking habits, like something that maybe you don't really want to do on top of something you do want to do. Like you didn't really want to ride your bike, but you want to hang out with your friend. All of a sudden it becomes a good thing for you.
You start doing it. And after a while, how many people in January buy a gym membership? How many? So many. And after a week, not after a week, after, let's say, after a month, after 2 months, and after 3 months, I think maybe 5% is still going.
Yeah.
Why is that? Yeah, it's because they don't feel the fun. They don't have fun in it. So they have to search for their fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And fun has been shown to actually cause rewiring of the brain because it opens your mind up to new possibilities. It taps into that natural curiosity that we have, like, oh, how would this turn
Creativity,
out?
curiosity, all these great things. Wisdom,
Yeah.
it taps into the other part of the brain, to the
Yeah.
right brain. It goes out of the reptile brain in the other part of the brain. And that's where we want to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the only really way to move forward is if we start going into that direction.
If you want to grow, yeah, absolutely.
And I know you're big on leadership. And for some people, it's, I think for many people, it's really tough to be their own leader. Not even mentioning other leadership of other people, but like just being your own leader where you're, maybe raising kids, you're trying to have a job, you're trying to keep yourself healthy, you have financial stresses. So you're trying to have all these fires put out. How do you recommend being a good leader for yourself?
Again, it's the same. Again, we start from saying no and start from this fixed mindset that we have. So here again, it's letting loose, seeing your own truth. What's your own truth? Why are my children? If you're stressed about your children, just take that example. Why are they talking back about to me, for example? Why are they not doing their homework? Why are they watching the iPad all day? Why are they doing this? Right? And how can I make the other thing that I want to do them? How can I make it fun? And talk with them about it. I mean, okay, if they are 2 years old, it's difficult, but if they are 4 or 5 years old, for example, or even, of course, when they are older, it's no problem. Talk with them. Open the conversation. Just open the conversation. I mean, I had to learn leadership the hard way. I was like in hospitals, and as a clown, you've got no authority, right? You have nurses, doctors, parents, cleaning ladies, and I'm telling you, no authority. I told them at TEDx, there was a cleaning lady who decided that I couldn't go into the room. Why? I don't know, but she had decided that. So you don't have an authority, and then you have to communicate with people and talk to people. Okay, why? And explain what you are doing, and then at some point, I realize that some people are not the brightest, but I'm also convinced that you can, if you explain things to people in a simple way, that everybody understands. And if everybody sees your way, and that's for your children, that's for people you work with, that's for your colleagues, that's for even your bosses, that's for your clients, that's for everybody. So I think the big issue in leaderships nowadays is communication.
Yeah.
And there's two ways of communicate. You communicate with your brain, with your rational mind. That's the first one. And the other communication is, again, the other half is the creativity, is the empathy, is letting people feel that what you are saying is, and here we go again, is the truth. And the truth isn't always pleasant to hear, but still, as a leader, you should always tell the truth, because in the long run, it will always serve you. So leadership, for me, leadership is communication and truth. Those are the key words in leadership. And I know there's a lot of talk about leadership, but for me, these two words are key. And maybe authenticity, but that's close to truth, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And just leading by example, and there's a big thing. It's like, you don't have to make other people believe, but you have to believe in your value so much that they innately just start believing.
Yeah. See, leading by example is a nice way, because if you are a certain way, if you act a certain way, you don't need to do anything. People will adapt that kind of talk, that kind of communication, that kind of mindset. They will adapt it just because it's your truth, you're authentic about it, you can empathize with them. And if you do it, then leading is natural. Then sometimes you will be astonished to say, oh, I didn't expect that from him or her or whatever. So here again,
Yeah. And from hearing what you're saying too, there's such a difference between leading in a way that you're serving others versus leading in a way that you're serving your ego. And that's a huge difference too, is that
Yeah,
your ideal and your goal is to help others become better, not necessarily just
yeah,
to feed your ego. And that's a huge difference too.
yeah. But and if you want to make yourself better, right,
Mm-hmm.
make other better, and you will
100%.
be better. It will go automatically. There's no other
Yeah.
way. If you make others better, it will always rub off on yourself. Always.
Mhm.
That's just how it is.
So true. Yes. Yeah. Because the minute we start focusing only on ourselves, we become wrapped up in a lot of those messages that don't necessarily help us. But yeah, it's like when we can look outside ourselves and realize we're
Yeah,
part of a bigger picture, it
yeah.
really changes that perspective in a huge
That's
way.
also why I forgot the name. There's this one. It's a famous coach, and he says he calls it the lantern post technique. And he
Mhm.
says, even if you just 10 minutes a day talking to a lantern pole out loud, it will
Mhm.
serve you, because then you are spreading your words outside. You don't stay in
Mhm.
your head. You go
Yeah.
outside with your words. Even that will help you. And it is true. As long
Yeah.
as you're in your own head, nothing happens.
It's true, because it does seem like when you're in your own head, you can kind of manipulate your thoughts to go back
Yeah,
to what you're used to. But when you speak it, you're like, oh, geez, I just said that. Like it does almost keeps you honest when
yeah,
honest when you are saying that, or even when you write it in journal. That's why those things tend to work very well, because you're like, wow, that was what
yeah,
I wrote. Obviously, it was what I
absolutely.
was experiencing at that time.
Yeah.
So a big part I know of just having energy to be able to serve others is serving yourself and helping you stay in that good place. What do
Yes.
you do as far as like a self-care routine that keeps your head in a good place and your body in a good place?
Yeah. I don't know if I have a really a routine,
Mhm.
but I try to do every day like 10 to 15 minutes. It's not really it's a kind of meditation,
Mhm.
and it serves to just go from my reptile brain to my other brain. That's the only thing it does.
Mhm.
And you can do it for years. Your
Mhm.
reptile brain will still always try to take charge, and you just learn to go the other side, so that when you need it during your day, that's the muscle I'm building. So that's something I do. And I try to do, like, let's say
Mhm.
6 times, 7 times, sometimes a week, some sport. But
Mhm.
it's small. It's like a run for half an hour, do some exercises for
Mhm.
15 minutes, go for a swim. So these things that everybody can do.
Mhm.
I just have an app where you can just do some exercises, no weights, just your own body. That I do like 3 4 times a week, and then I go try to run 1 or 2 times, swim if I can,
Mhm.
just to keep moving. And that's it, actually. And that's, for me, that does it.
Mhm.
And I smoke a cigar once in a while.
That's, and then that's the beauty about self-care routines, because it has to work for you. And like I always ask everybody their self-care routine, because everybody has a different one. And it's like you
Yeah,
have to figure out what works for you. And if it keeps you in
yeah,
a place where it's moving you forward towards your vision, then
yeah.
that's what you want.
Yeah, the cigar thing is a funny thing. I started smoking a lot of years ago, but what it does is, when you smoke a cigar, you need to have time to do that. You can't say, I have a half an hour. Let me quickly go smoke a cigar. That doesn't work. So you have to make time to go and smoke the cigar.
Mhm.
So so that's good, because when you're smoking a cigar, that's the only thing you're doing. Just smoking that cigar. And it helped me. It helped me. Yeah, now I'm hooked. I know, and I know it's not a healthy habit. I know that too. But on the other hand, it relaxes me, and yeah, well,
Mhm. It became that catalyst for that quiet time, it seems like,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Yep.
my me time. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the beauty of it, is like having that time to just turn off the devices, turn off
yeah,
yourself from the world. Because I think sometimes people go through their days and like, you go from morning to night and you're always just
yeah,
stimulated. And it's like,
yeah,
you don't have a moment to just like allow you to sit in your thoughts for a moment.
yeah.
And it
and
is
and
so
that's
important.
yeah, and that originated from limiting beliefs, where
Mhm.
you heard people say, you gotta work, you gotta do your best, you gotta work
Yeah.
hard. And working hard means not smoking a cigar, not go sit for an hour. That's not working
Mhm.
hard.
Mhm.
And yeah, people even feel guilty when they say, oh, I'm gonna do nothing for an hour. Some people really feel guilty when
Yeah.
they do that.
So true.
Or when they say to their kids, hey, leave me alone for half an hour, will you? You can really say that to let's say 7, 8 year olds. I want to be alone for half an hour. Can you leave me alone? There's nothing wrong with that, but people are afraid of doing that because they think, oh no, I can't say that to my kids. But why not? Because when you do that, you serve yourself, and that will serve in time your children, and they really won't mind if you don't. If you do it a few times, they are used to it, and they say, oh, in half an hour we go play our iPad or watch TV or play
Yeah.
whatever. Mommy or daddy are having their half an hour. That's nothing more to it. Yeah.
It's so true. And it's like, again, leading by example. It's like, if you want your child when they grow up to feel like they're in a hamster wheel where they can never relax, then
Yeah.
maybe you just continue to stay busy. But if you want your child to have better tools when
Yeah.
they're an adult that you didn't have, then you need to start leading by example and doing that for yourself, and do it without feeling guilty.
Yeah.
Because if you're feeling guilty for that half hour you're taking alone,
Yeah.
then it's defeating the purpose of it. So
It's the
so
big
true.
failure of it's the big failure of our educational system. We teach children, we give them information, we put them full of information. But I think we are past that point. Teach them some mindfulness, teach them some business, teach them these things that they really can use. I mean, what's the point of teaching them how many countries there are in Africa? Yeah, it's nice for if they are going to do a quiz, but yeah. So
yeah. It's so true. I mean, when we're children, we either are soothed by our parents and we're always comforted by them, but then we become adults and we don't have any technique to self-soothe. And then we do escapism, like whether it's, drinking or drugs or whatever it is, or social media, or we just put the TV on. It's like that becomes our only soothing technique, but it's not actually doing the job. And it's like, I've been aware of that. I mean, I didn't grow up with skills to self-soothe, and now I'm like, okay, I need to instill this in my children. And I was so proud the other day. My son was all riled up over something, and then he, without me even saying, he started doing some deep breathing, and I'm like, he's almost 4, and I'm like, okay,
right,
he's going to be in a better shape than I was. So
yeah, of course, but of course we can't blame our parents. They didn't know better. I also grew up in a working class family, and they just didn't know about it. And in their time, nobody talked about what we are talking about now, right? So that was like for the elite. So yeah, but I think we are getting there, especially now, especially when COVID hits. More and more people started to realize, whoa, there's more in life than work. There's more in life than. So there is some kind of awareness going on. So it's a good thing, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it is just so important just taking that responsibility for your own self, because it is true. Like, you can easily jump into that, like, well, I was never taught this, and blame people for the way your situation is. But at the end of the day, the only thing that can change is when you take responsibility and then you take action to actually change your circumstances. So it's
to use another nice analogy I always use, you can lit 1,000,000 candles, but yours has to be lit first.
So true. Oh my gosh. Yes, that's a good one. Very true. Just one more question, because I just love what you've done and the work that you do. But what is one of the most profound lessons you've learned through the work that you've done as a clown and then as a personal development coach?
I think a little bit what I just said. It all starts with yourself. Look into yourself first before you go judging circumstances or people, or yourself even. Just look in an honest way to yourself and see, okay, what's not okay with myself, what's bugging me about myself, and write these things down and address them one by one. If you find that you don't have enough skills, then search what skill you want to have and go and learn it. If you think you are not fit enough, go to a sporting club or a gym, or call a friend who also think, hey, I need to do something, and do it. If you think your business is not going how it should go, check out, ask somebody, but or ask somebody. And if you don't, ask somebody, okay, what needs to improve here? And then do it, of course. That's the magic words. The magic word is always doing it. As long as it stays in your head, that's 20% of the work, and that's why I always say to people, it's good that you go to seminars. It's good that you read books. It gives you motivation, but motivation is only 20% of the work. It's like when you're laying in a hot bath, that's so nice. But if you stay too long and you don't pour hot water once in a while, it's not nice anymore. It will get cold and you want to get out of it. And that's what we do. We are going to these things and reading books and all, and we are so motivated, but then we don't do the work. And this work, this 80%, we don't do that. And we go from one seminar to another, from one book to another, from one coach to another, from one doctor to another. But in between, we don't do anything about this 80%. And that's the thing I really had to learn the hard way. And that's what I learned when I started coaching. I learned, oh my God, I'm not doing this myself. How can I coach people if I'm not doing it myself? If I say to people, hey, you gotta do 15 minutes of this every day, and you're not doing it yourself. That was for me, that was profound. I did something, but certain things I just didn't do myself. And for me, that was the beauty of coaching, that with some clients, I learned more than I taught my clients in some ways. And if there is a lesson that I learned the last years, and which I think that is really, really so important, is just start with yourself. Look in the mirror, start yourself, see what you want to change or what doesn't work, where are you stuck. And if you can't solve it yourself, which is probably 90% of the time, get some help. Just get some help.
Yeah, and some of the biggest problems are not meant to do alone. So it is just having something look outside of you.
And the thing is also, is sometimes it's so simple, but you don't see it yourself. It's like, and again, an analogy I know, but if you are with your nose against a beautiful painting, you don't see the painting. And the one who is standing 10 meters behind you will say, whoa, this is great. Do you see this? Do you see this? They don't see it. And what he does, he just takes you by the arm and puts you 10 meters from the painting, and you see the painting. And that's all. And that's really how simple it is. But we have to just ask people. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, such a great analogy, because it's like you're capable of doing it, but you need that little guidance to make it to the point where you can.
Or a push or whatever. Or some people just need to be held accountable. All this. If you know from yourself, I can't keep myself accountable. Then you have to just ask a friend and say, oh, kick me in the ass every once in a while, because I need to do some things. And if I don't do them, just kick me in the ass. That's all you need to do. And if it's a really good friend, he'll do it.
Right. Exactly. It's true. It's just, it's just figuring out, again, like you said, knowing yourself enough to know what you're strong at and what you're not strong at, and then figuring out who can help you become a better version of yourself. So I love that. For anyone who wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
My website, I think that's the easiest thing, eddysmits.com. I'm also on a lot of social media. So normally if you Google me, you'll find me somewhere. But my website is just the easiest way, I think.
Okay, great. And I'll put that in the show notes too for anyone listening. But thank you so much. I truly enjoyed this conversation, and I just appreciate all your wealth of knowledge and your experience, and thank you for everything you do. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, really.
Thank you for spending your precious time to listen to this episode of Rewiring Health. My mission is to inspire hope and healing through science-backed practices. If you found value in this, please share with 3 people and leave a review. By doing so, this message can be spread to those who need to hear it most. Also, to get updates on the most recent episodes, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for being part of this community, and I am forever grateful for you.